Good morning and welcome back to A Novel Lunch. My name is Pamela S. Thibodeau. I'm your writing coach, and today we're going to talk about some tips for writing nonfiction. I was helping a friend of mine prepare a contest entry, and I did a little bit of editing, and it sparked the idea for this conversation with you. So, for the most part, nonfiction is still considered creative writing. Think of publications like Chicken Soup for the Soul. Those are creative nonfiction. It's called creative narrative fiction and different things like that. But nonfiction should still be creative writing, and you should utilize the same tools and skills and guidelines that you use in a fiction book to make your story richer. The exception to that would be manuals, how-to manuals, or procedure manuals, or employee handbooks, things like that. That's more technical writing, and we may talk about that later, we may not. But today, let's get more into some creative nonfiction ideas and tips. Let me share my screen. All righty, here we go. This document, it will be in the website for you to download and use as examples to help with your creative nonfiction. As I said, nonfiction, for the most part, is still creative writing. They are told with the emotional richness you get in a fiction story, except the story is true. Autobiographies, biographies, if you read those, you'll see that usually there's some creative writing in there. It's more like a story, it's not just facts. So, creative nonfiction, you don't want just the facts, you want to create a story around the facts. So, here's some tips. Find your writing voice. That is your unique personality and style of writing, and then determine the tone and the personality of the story. Is it going to be humorous, authoritative, cynical? Whichever way you're going to tell it. Don't try to tell it like somebody else would. This is your story. Do not try to tell it like somebody else would. You want to start with a strong hook. Just like fiction needs an inciting incident, your nonfiction piece needs an inciting incident. For an example, the last thing I remember was him standing over me, teeth bared, fists clenched. That's a hook that grabs the reader's attention right away. Oh my goodness, what's happening here? Okay. Then again, as in fiction, you want to show versus tell. Avoid using I to start every sentence. This is boring and it tells your story instead of showing. So here's an example. I was walking home that day. The sun felt so good on my face that I was finally able to relax. That's all telling. So another way to tell it would be warmth from the sun permeated my entire being and I relaxed for the first time in, I don't know, hours, days, weeks, months, whatever. You want to engage all of the five senses as much as you can in a nonfiction story. You can even use metaphors, imagery, and foreshadowing in your book, which again, like the first example, the last thing I remember him standing over me, teeth bared, fists clenched. That's in not only an inciting incident, it's foreshadowing into where's it going from there. So you think about that, and you want to use dialogue. Just as showing is better than telling, internal dialogue makes your story stronger. Here's an example. Her dimples, which I'd always found so adorable, now made me think of craters in her face. That's good, but you're still telling what he felt or what he thought. Instead, you could say, why had I ever thought those dimples were cute when in fact they're like craters in her face? The bizarre thought made me recognize the depths of her selfishness and cruelty. See, you're in his point of view, you're in his body, you're in his mind, and he has this thought, and it reminds him or makes him recognize how cruel and selfish she is. You want to recreate your dialogue accurately. If the And remember, use the correct point of view. The character who is talking cannot see his or her expression. Example, I was embarrassed and afraid. You're telling how you felt instead of I stood before him, heart pounding, face afire, fists clenched. I hate you. There's showing there with dialogue and point of view. Now, here are a few more tips. Don't bog the reader down with too much backstory. Allow the backstory to come through with dialogue or action or something like that, a memory, but it shouldn't be a long memory, real detailed, unless it moves the story forward. Think short, sharp, and crisp. Your sentences will move the story along, just like in fiction. Description is great. Use as many sentences as possible in writing, but you don't want the long drawn out description. If it's imperative to the story, the setting is always imperative. But if it is something that really moves the nonfiction story along, you want to engage the reader's senses. but you don't want 5 pages of description either. You want to describe the scene, put the reader in the scene, and then move the story forward. If you want your memoir to be marketable, it must leave the reader with valuable takeaways. This is very important. If you're writing your memoir just to share it with your family and your friends, that's perfect. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want it to be a marketable story that will be turned into a movie or something, you have to leave your reader with some takeaways, like how did you overcome? What are they going to benefit from reading this? How are they going to grow? Are they going to have a story that gives them tools for dealing with a similar situation? So there has to be some valuable takeaways. Make every scene count. Telling us you went to the grocery store to get makeup to cover the bruises is not important unless you encounter someone who tries to get you to leave the situation, and you can make the reader or that person in the grocery store understand why you choose not to. Show us the emotional impact of the encounter for all parties involved. That moves the story along. That makes that scene imperative to your story. But just saying that you went to the grocery store to buy makeup to cover the bruises, nobody cares. They're only going to care why you're not leaving this situation. Covering the bruises is important. You don't want people to see you all beat up, but most people are going to think, well, why don't you just leave? So tell them why. Tell us why. And then, as in any book, editing and revision are imperative. In other words, submit your best work, whether you submit it to agents, editors, publishers, or even self-publishing. You want it to be your best work. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I hope this short video is beneficial to you. I hope if you're a nonfiction writer that you gain some knowledge or understanding about the genre a little bit better. I appreciate you visiting with me today. I thank you for joining me. If you enjoy my content, please like, subscribe, and share it. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one to get consulting or help with your nonfiction project, my email is in the show notes. You can shoot me an email and we'll set up a conversation. If you would like to support a novel lunch, there's a link for that in the show notes as well. I hope you have a great day and a great weekend. And until next time, write happy.